Testing 1, 2, 3. We had to put the scripts into a locked box when we were done for the day.
Oh,
And we never knew like what script was real. We get like codes and emails, and I'm calling my agent the whole time. And I'm like, God, I never fucking went through some shit like this.
sounds like they kept you like in a lot of unknown elements. Do you feel like at any time during filming that your military training just kind of seamlessly went in there with the acting? Did you just kind of say, okay, I'm going to rely on my military training for this part, or this reminds me of this part in the military, so I'm going to go for it? Anything like that ever happen when you were
Oh
filming?
yeah, every time I pick up a weapon does. It's just muscle memory. That's
You
what it is, muscle memory. When I get a weapon, I'll look at it and make sure it's clear, even if it's a blank gun. It's a Nerf gun. Now they have Nerf guns on set, and it's just the muscle memory. So like, oh yeah, it's a toy. But I still treat it like barrels down, never point at somebody, never have my finger on it. That's what you'll see a lot of me on movies and shows. I still have my safety finger out because that's what it's like. And then you go into a trigger. So I was playing around with their prop guns, and I was taking a 9mm apart like in 4 seconds, putting it together, just keeping my mind away from everything. And I thought I was by myself. And they were like, "Oh my God, how'd you do that?" I was like, "I was in the infantry." When you hear it on the live stuff, they were actually shooting pellets at me. But
Cool.
anyway, they moved everybody out, just had me in the main cast, and then we did that scene where I flipped a picnic table up and started shooting people and all that. And there was more to it.
Was that in the script, or did you just do it?
Yeah.
That was in the script. That was written in the script. That I was supposed to help this and that. Help like the two main characters
So one of the
out.
things you said to me, and I'll never forget it, was like you were talking about Herschel, how he's got a burp before he goes on.
Burping, and then he becomes Herschel. Yeah, from Scott Wilson to Herschel. It's
Okay.
hilarious. And my agent calls me like at 2 a.m, tripping out, and I just like, what the fuck's going on? And she goes, "Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, you're on The Walking Dead," and I'm going, "The Walking what?"
My first experience was on Hunger Games 2 Mockingjay. And I was behind the stunt team, and we had weapons that they gave us, and we were charging the Capitol and all that stuff. So that was my first experience with 1,500 of my best friends. But we were a small contingent of people that were going up, and I talked to the stunt people, and that's what started me into wanting to pursue a stunt career instead of just acting, because I've been acting since I was 3. But
Wow.
but no, you start. Yeah, I mean, I've always been on stage, so it was just a dream to be able to chase it in Atlanta, because as soon as Atlanta opened up and they said, "Oh, it's developing, it's picking up," that made me just instantly want to, it's like, hey, I don't have to go to New York, I don't have to go to LA, I can just go, I can just go to Atlanta and make it happen. So I went down to Atlanta for Hunger Games 2, and then I moved straight into the sequel to Divergent, which is Insurgent. and worked
Oh,
with the stunt team again with that one.
Wow. I mean, so you've been acting since you were 3. Honestly, I thought you were going to tell us you had some military background too, just from the way you were talking.
I do have to know all this stuff, and I did get to go on some drills with the Whack and Hut guys, and that's kind of what opened up my eyes to the tactical side of things. And I am also an advisor with Action ATL, which is a military advisory group, and I teach bladed weaponry specialties and things like that, so that actors and stunt people will look authentic using weapons and fighting. Because I do martial arts also. I'm a martial arts instructor, and so you just kind of get used to putting people through different things, and inevitably weapons are going to become part of that, because you always got cops, you always got people that are gang members or whatever, and inevitably if they hold a rifle, they're going to want to do this, they're going to want to cock that out there, they're going to want to hold it a little, and they're going to want to tilt their head to look down. It's don't do that, just don't do that. Yeah.
Hey, I'm going to show a clip of yours from Halloween. Is that all right?
Hey, go for it. I die for a living. It's fine.
Thanks for telling me. Billy's still out at the party. Let me know if you hear anything else. Good night, Sally.
God damn.
Ron Hutchinson is a legend. He's amazing. And he asked if I was available on whatever dates. I'm like, yeah, of course, So but I still didn't know what it was for. And I show up, and another stunt legend, Marian Green, we're both Marians. Who knew? She was there, and I knew her for a long time. So we went for sushi, and then we showed up on set in the Gas Lantern District in Charleston. And David Gordon Green comes up the street, and one of the first things he says, he starts pointing his finger at the other Marian, at Marian Green, and it's like, "You killed Mr. Orange in Reservoir Dogs! Oh my gosh!" And we were just cracking up, and it was great. So we did we went into our prospective houses where we died. Marian Green was the one that died before me with the hammer. Yeah, that was her. And so I went into my house, and this older gentleman came up, and it's like, okay. So we started going through some choreography, and there was one little hint, and it's like, no, that won't, because there were a couple different versions of that scene. After we went to sushi, I was in my room that night, and I got an email for fitting, and at the bottom of the fitting, it had Agent Orange and a pumpkin. Okay, and I was like, and then below that, Halloween. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm in a freaking iconic franchise. Are you freaking kidding me? So that was pretty cool. That was the first time I knew what it was. And we filmed it in January, and it was really cold, and they didn't want to run up the people's bill of the house I was in, or Marian was in, the other Marian. So there was no heat.
Is it just kind of like after a while, just a pattern, like, okay, grab, slam, kill, die?
Yeah. What did you actually hit your head on?
Yeah.
That was the back of a carved wooden. There was a carved piece of wood with roses carved into it on the couch. So I was kneeling on the couch, looking out the window, and that was my hair, by the way. And he grabbed me by the bun, and I just hung from the hair. And then when he slammed me, there was a little gel pad about this big that I had to aim the center of my forehead at, because he's 6'4". I mean, the guy is huge, and it was just in his line of drive. We tried to do it the stunt way with me doing it and him just riding along, and it just didn't look right. And I just said, just do it, man. Just do it. We'll just try to aim for the pad.
How many takes did it take?
Yeah.
There were rehearsals, and I think we did 14 takes
Wow.
plus rehearsal.
Holy cow.
The neck and the knife that came through your neck. How was that? I mean, you had to reset that and everything 14 times.
Well, we did a lot of the rehearsals without, there was a hose and I had a prosthetic all around my chin and attached down onto my collarbones and on my chest. And there was a slit in the silicone, and they had a blood bladder, and they had a hose that went down my shoulder in the sweatshirt, and then down my leg and out my ankle. So every time I got onto that couch and I kneeled onto the couch, I would offer up a leg off camera so that they could attach the hose when it was time to actually try to do the blood gag. So when they, but no, we didn't do the blood except for a couple of times. And then it was at that point, they tried the blood and it failed. My neck blew up like a frog because he was pumping the blood, reep, 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 reep. But on the very last take, his line of attack was just a little high, and my forehead pounded right into that rose on that carved wooden back of that couch. And I had a rose-shaped knot. Pain is temporary, film is forever.
And when we work, we meet divas. We meet a lot of people that are way over their head. Some people we believe that they're overpaid, but the majority is a family. The majority is a family. And that's everybody. So when you respect them and you get more gigs that way, you grow a network.
Yeah. So I'm just to say, I'm like a huge horror movie fan, huge Walking Dead fan. I've been to Walker Stalkers, got the chance to meet like Norman Reedus. And so I was wondering what it was like to work with like Andrew Lincoln and Norman Reedus, Lauren Cohan, Stephen Yeun.
Man, let me tell you, when they say it's a TWD family, it is. It's a family. Nobody on that set thought they're like, I'm so and so. Everybody was so freaking respectful. Amazing how everybody came together and just worked with each other. Like I said, I thought Andrew Lincoln was a security guard. I never met the dude. I was just hired on from a phone call from my agent from filming being on one set to get it to Georgia, go to Georgia and get prepared and get all these scripts. Never met any of the guys. When I went, the only one I remembered, it was Scott Wilson. Scott Wilson has been in so many fantastic historical movies and TV shows. I was born in 73, so I grew up with the Beretta, the Starsky and Hutch, all them stuff. And Scott Wilson was part of that genre, before Walking Dead. So I knew Scott, like, oh my God, you're Scott Wilson. Never knew he was Herschel. They come out and they're doing the prosthetic. They got this head on a broomstick that was Scott Wilson going, just moving eyes. And it's all remote control. I'm going, that's badass. Who's getting, So, I got to witness the whole thing, all that. And then I go home and I go and watch this show and I'm going, holy shit. I can't believe this. This is crazy.
What was it like to work on so many seasons of Ancient Aliens? Because I think it was one episode with you, and I know how they cut it and use it in different parts.
You're the one who got shot through the throat or stabbed through the throat in the clip Tom sent me, right? That's you? Same girl. All right. Nice to meet you. Well, different things are different. I've also done some reality stuff. I did Uncovering Aliens. That was the show we were on. That was different than like Ancient Aliens is going to be, where basically they sit you down and they interview you for 2, 3, 4, 5 episodes. I'll ask you, 20 or 30 questions, and they give you the questions sometimes like the night before you get them the night before. So it's like, you're going to ask me questions about cowboys and aliens. That's not really my thing. I'm the artifacts guy, the face on Mars, pyramids on the moon, all that stuff. That's what I do. Right. So that's really easy because if you know your subject, all that you do is you sit down and you answer the questions, and you just try to put it in a way that's a tasty soundbite that they can cut and use to make a particular point. It's basically just beats, and the words are all mine, so they come out and they flow naturally. As opposed to reality TV is a completely different thing, depending on how scripted it is. Because the show I did with you, Tommy, Uncovering Aliens, there was some acting in the sense that, okay, now, somebody point out that helicopter, that we had a black helicopter fly over us once in Sedona. So, Mike, you got to say, oh, look, there's a black helicopter with no markings on it. So we had to go back and reshoot that stuff. And I had to occasionally read off of pickups we would do for episodes that have been done before to help create transitions. The problem with me is that I can't act because I'm a writer. So when I read dialogue, if I don't like it, if I don't approve it, if it's not the way I would flow the words, I can't say it with any sincerity. So I have such admiration for you guys that actually can act, because I know how difficult it is to genuinely act, right? So what happened is, over time, I would just say, okay, well, I read it the way you wanted to. Can I just say the same thing, but in my own words? And we do another take. And I would do that, and that would inevitably be the one they would use, because it was so much more relaxed and natural. And it was amazing to me how an actor could pick up a scene they'd never seen the words before, and they come out of their mouths just like it's a completely natural conversation. First time, reading it right off the page, and it's so authentic, and I could never get to that authenticity. I could never get to that, even with my own stuff, where I knew all the inflections. I knew exactly how I wanted the character to sound. Brando used to have everything written down because he never even read his scripts, right? That, like, there was one scene in The Godfather where they actually had his line written on an orange he picked up.
So I'm getting in touch with some of the worst feelings I've ever had in my life while they're filming me. And then I go, my God, this is going to be powerful and people will understand what I went through. And then it gets all cut out. Right. And so, yeah. And I'm on top of everything else. I'm going, that was one of the best interviews I ever did. I was personal. I was in touch with everything. I poured my heart out, and it gets left on the cutting room table. We ended up moving to Connecticut, and we met the Warrens, Ed and Lorraine Warren. And oddly enough, my parents also bought this house where this brutal murder took place. It was turned into 2 books and a movie called A Death in Canaan. The Barbara Gibbons case, the Peter Riley home, that was our house, right? Wow. So after living there, we started to pick up on, activity. But it's interesting how we all, are here today talking about how different it is for us. And I really wish I could, in some ways remember 3 or 4 lines in a row, but at the same time, so I would say that for me, I've had all this paranormal activity around me, and I really want to talk about it and bring it forth and get real and touch on it. And then I'm pouring my heart out, right? So I'm sitting here. I even did it with Mike. We were filming Ancient Aliens in Massachusetts, and I'm sitting here sharing, these smudge marks I see in my house, and personal experiences I remember, and stuff that's not actually comfortable to talk about, right? Because again, as a kid, we were punching bags. We were in fights all the time.
9 years old, I was beaten. I was raped. I dealt with a lot of things. Being poor, abuse, even stuff that happened in the military. I tried to commit suicide numerous times, 5 times. Like I said, I was born in 73, dealt with the late 70s, 80s kind of deal. You can tell people that, or you're being pushed with drugs and medicine in a straitjacket in a padded room. We didn't have that kind of freedom. I heard voices. I walked here. I saw this and that. You were a nut. Something was wrong with you. Get some medicine and something. These days you got more freedom to talk and open and express yourself even more, so people can understand and see exactly the studies that go into it. We could talk about the religion part. We could talk about the whole universe part. We could talk, it's not an argument. It is just always a mystery. Paranormal, after death, it's always been a mystery. It's in every religion. It's in every history. It's carved on walls, in pyramids. It's carved in caves. You just can't put a judgmental part of it unless you get involved in it. So I went through a lot of things as a kid, experienced things, and later on in life, I opened up more about it. And, but, we get clear voices, conversations. I've seen things fly off walls, and this is all documented. So I never keep any of the evidence. People around me that are come in to be investigators, be cinematographers, or whatever they're doing, they keep all that evidence. So they can't say, "Oh, you're just trying to make money," and I don't get paid for it or nothing. I just
sense memory. You bring up something that you went through or something that triggers an emotion that you want to bring to the scene. And that helps you to deliver that scene with authentic emotion because you're accessing what you went through in another situation. And that allows you to link that emotion, that authentic emotion, so you don't have to try. I always say, if you think it, it shows up on film. You don't try because you're going to burn the eyes out of everybody in the camera. You just don't try. So you try to think about something that you went through. Like there are certain, when I do certain scenes that take a certain kind of emotion, I always remember a certain thing that triggers the emotion that I need to feel for that particular thing. And then I can deliver an authentic performance when I'm having to deliver those lines. So if you have, if it's been hard and it's hard for you to disconnect yourself from the authenticity of what you went through because they're asking you for something else, then you can always access.
So that's how you balance it out. It's almost kind of like you got a shelf of emotions and say, okay, I got this emotion. I'm going to shelve it now. Let me get this emotion. It sounds like you're following another protocol of emotional access, able to turn on and turn off certain emotions, which sounds like that's a key of successful
See,
acting.
that's what I can't do. When I start talking about something that triggers my experiences, I can't shut that off anymore. That's my problem.
Well,
Okay. I think also if we kind of remember, like we're all talking about these experiences here. We all have something, and we're not alone on this journey, one way or another. There is something connecting us here. I think that communion helps. That helps me. It's just that remember, you got the protocols, you got the remembrance that, we've embraced the paranormal one way or another, and we're not alone. We really aren't. So love these strategies.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that Santiago's had paranormal experiences. And I don't know, Tom, if you know this, but my house was built in 1882.
It's haunted.
Holy cow. It's haunted. It's haunted.
I respect you. I realize you're there, but we have to live in harmony in this house. And I respect you and I will bring this house back to former glory. I'm not going to do something crazy, but I was in my room again and it was almost 4 a.m. It's funny how things happen around anywhere from 3:20 to 3:47, usually around that time.
2 to 4. 2 to 4, I feel, is that hour, those hours.
Mine's 2:23.
Okay. But I was in my room and when a door is closed, but it gets pushed on and then settles back into place? Yeah, that happened. And again, open the doors, went through the whole house, everything, nothing. So I said, okay, look, I got to be able to sleep. I know you guys are there and you're welcome here. And I just we have to share this space and I'm going to make it beautiful and it's going to be amazing. So if you respect my space, I respect your space. But when I take videos in this house, I see orbs, I do see stuff, and I can't watch TV without the door closed because then you see stuff passing in your, peripheral vision. Yellow is the color of spiritual armor. It's the color of spiritual strength. And if you can visualize while you're dealing with these things, just a mountain of lemons or a golden wheat in the sun or anything like that. If you can visualize anything golden, and if you can't think of anything golden, something's trying to get in.
When Ed and Lorraine came to our house, which is the Death in Canaan book we mentioned earlier, We were having or feeling, cold spots in the home. My grandmother swore she saw shadow figures. I've seen things move across the room, that kind of thing. I actually had a Ouija board come off a table. I don't talk about it much because it sounds so crazy. But with that, the Warrens never came in the house. They stayed in our driveway. They weren't hired to investigate. They were just in the Torrington area and decided to come by the house. They invited me to an event they were having at the Marriott in Farmington, Connecticut. It was around a Halloween period. And so I met with them. We talked first. They said, why don't you come in? They just comped me, let me come in. And I was with my girlfriend at the time. And they were saying that, and they were, playing a lot of very demonic sounding things, that they had picked up in Europe and different tapes. And they told me that when they were about to play this, that they wanted me to picture a white like cloud or blanket over the room. Picture this white blanket. And so me, I'm at the time I'm kind of like joking with my girlfriend, like, okay, so a demonic spirit is not going to bother me because I'm picturing a white blanket of something holy, maybe. And I'm thinking to myself, how could I expect that to overcome what I'm about to listen to, right? And so for me,
Mind over matter.
well, it is kind of a mind over matter, right? Because it trains your brain, maybe that's it. So my question to you is the things that I hear, rosemary beads, really? We've got demons, but a rosemary bead is going to prevent something. This is where I go,
Wow.
I don't know, So I'm going to turn it over to Mike, you, Santiago, Rachel, Ellie, and you tell me what you think, because that's a question that I get a lot, certainly from my own family.
The stuff works.
It does. It does.
It does. It's all about like a power of belief. And it works. I mean, we don't know why it works, but it works.
Gonna have
I think,
go.
I think when you imagine colors or anything else for that matter, it's not the rosary beads themselves. It's if you believe in them. And basically there's another saying, all we are is sound and light. The only reason you don't fall through the table is because you're vibrating at the same rate the table is vibrating. That's why you don't fall through the table. So when you imagine golden color has a wavelength, color has a frequency. Sounds, they all have frequency. Everything that we do is all based on frequency. And when you use a spirit board of any kind, I don't care what kind it is, you're actually, unless you know how to use these ways of shutting things out, you are creating yourself as a channel. Bad spirits always lie. Good spirits tell the truth. So you can say, answer yes or no. My name is Tom. And if it says no, cut off the connection, because it cannot tell the truth by saying your name is Tom.
I mean, that's a huge thing that we do before we go in and investigate anywhere. We're all about like, what intention are you bringing into the space? We treat them how we want to be treated, and that's with respect. And we always walk in and we introduce ourselves. We say what we're here to do. We're here to communicate with you. Nothing more, nothing less. We would love for you to communicate back. This is the story. But then we have the same protocols for closing down an investigation, so that we're always mindful of protecting ourselves in and out of a space. So we're always like, always say, thank you for communicating. We really love hearing your story. But you have to remain here. This is your space. We're giving it back to you. And we're going to go to our home, but you may not follow us.
I think also, in a way, you are establishing boundaries and respect. It's kind of like, when I say respect, I'm not talking about the emotional connotation of, oh yeah, he disrespected me. I'm talking about respect in that the boundaries, the limitations of yourself in relation to the encounter that you're about to have. That is the definition of respect here. So when you go into a shark, the limitations of yourself in that shark, and you're going to get in that metal cage knowing what the shark is capable of, but it doesn't mean that you're disrespecting the shark. You respect the shark.
You never know what portal you open.
Yeah.
So, but I go in there and I say my blessings going in, I say my blessings going out. I give it respect, but there's times where the atmosphere is so strong because they're not used to that energy. Where I've gone on property, almost buckled down and pointed to a window with my eyes closed, and I'm like, "Who was there? Who's there?" I always, I keep faith with me all the time, so I'll pray before I go. I give the respect as anything. I even tell other investigators, man, don't go in there high, don't be getting the buzz, don't be drunk, don't disrespect these people, because it feeds. We are energy. It feeds
100%.
off our energy and emotions. Man, you want to talk about being drained at night or having your morning hangovers, your paranormal hangovers.
Yeah, it's a paranormal hangover.
The paranormal hangover
is real.
It's real.
I'm on that right now.
That's it. And that's it. Like I said, that's what happens when it just depends how you feed into it and how you receive it. But man, if you do it in a positive way and professional, we respect you. This is, some people go in there and they're fucked up in the wrong mind and they're like, this is so and so's room. We respect, and they'll go in there and invade it. They'll go in there and just like, this is bullshit. It's feeding off of that. I've seen it. I've seen people get thrown on walls. I've seen people get scratched. And I've seen it all. And they're just trying to explain to me. And I'm going, shouldn't have leave the circle. You shouldn't leave that circle and put that. We're marching forward positive, but here's your doubter.
Residual is just like a tape recording of an event that happened that plays over and over again.
Exactly. And
but if it's intelligent, then you're having this interaction with the spirit that's actually communicating with you in real time.
Yeah. You can also have intelligent entities that don't know how to communicate, so they're acting as if they're acting as if they are a tape recorder. They're not on tape recording. They're actually just kind of stuck in a cycle. And we found most of the time that they are willing to go. Some of them are just like, some of them they're like, they're like, there's an afterlife? Great, sweet. How do I get it?
And then after I said that to her and told her that she was an angel, I just felt this whole warmth. It's nothing I've ever felt. It's just like people say like they see heaven when they die. It was like I felt heaven.
I think like anything we do, we're basically doing the same thing as a Ouija board. We're opening up communication with the dead. So ourselves, we're a tool, whether you're using that, dowsing rods, a pendulum, a video camera, EVP. All of it's a tool that you're used to communicate
things, but it's all that sound and light thing again. People that leave these, footsteps and smudge marks and all, they're on another frequency. You can't see them because you're not on the same frequency they are. Spirits don't even, they're walking through everywhere all the time. They're always around, but they're on another frequency you can't detect unless you're open to that detection.
I told the story the other night, so you and Rachel have already heard it, but I'll tell it again. I was a couple years ago. I don't know if you guys know who Whitley Strieber is, but he's got one of the more famous alien abduction cases in history, and he's the one who wrote a book called Communion in 1987, and it shows the gray alien face. That's really
I remember that book.
Yeah, that became sort of the definitive, gray alien kind of guy, right? They weren't green, but anyway. So I was at a conference in Manchester, England. I was speaking there, and he was going to be there, and I'm like, oh, this is cool. I've never met him. I want to talk to him about all this stuff. And I get there, and it's late, and I make my way up to my room, and it was one of these weird old English buildings where they've added onto it like 4 times in the last 100 years, right? So you go through all these stairs. Ended up in room 215. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to go to sleep. I'm going to try to get on English time, get through the jet lag. So I'm laying there, and I'm a side sleeper, and I'm laying there, and I'm asleep, and all of a sudden I feel like this slap, like on my back. It felt like somebody slapped me like that. And it woke me up, and I'm like, okay, I had a dream, and I just jerked in my dream, and it woke me up, right? So I pulled up my phone, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, oh, what time is it? Oh, it's exactly 3 a.m. Exactly 3 a.m.
That's the witching hour.
Okay. So next day, I get up, I get down, I go to breakfast. I see Whitley Strieber there. I sit down, I start talking to him. We just start talking about all kinds of stuff. He knows me a little bit from working with Richard Hoagland and other people in the UFO thing. And as we're just chit-chatting, he said, well, 2 things, one of the things about me is that when people meet me, they can frequently start having experiences. You know, they start getting visited by the aliens or whatever the hell they are, right? And I'm like, oh, that's pretty interesting. And he goes, so, but what I try to do is I try to control the experience. So every night I set my alarm, I wake up in the middle of the night, and I sit down and I meditate, and I converse with the visitors. I converse with these aliens, and I'm like, oh, you do? Huh? What time do you do that? And he goes, exactly 3 o'clock in the morning. I went, oh, yeah, okay. I'm starting to get a little chilled and a little scary. And I go, and what room are you staying in? 216, the room right next to mine. So whoever these transdimensional beings were, they probably came through my room to go into his room to meet up with him. And one of them was like, oh, hey, there's Bara. Smack, let's wake him up and fuck with him a little bit. I feel like that's exactly what happened. And it's weird, but it was one of the really weirdest experiences I've ever had. And it wasn't really confirmed until the next day when I'm like, yeah, something woke me up at that hour. And then I have some dreams from when I was a little kid, but they're probably just dreams. But I'm, you know,
that's when the dead tend to communicate with people the most.
Yeah, for me, it's always aliens, though, Rachel. It's not, you know, it's not ghosts. I don't have a ghost thing. I have an alien thing.
They're finding like so much is like that parallels with aliens and ghosts.
Yeah.
So,
well, and even it was really interesting because in his lecture, he said there seems to be some connection between this abduction phenomenon and death, because I keep seeing people from my life that have passed away. Now, either they're pulling the images out of my mind and, you know, tricking me, or somehow people can come through from those death realms and communicate. They're able to somehow facilitate that. Aliens are. So you know, he was even
there's some connection, I think.
Yeah, but you know, so there's the ghost thing and the alien thing. They're going to cross over, and I don't know. I've known a lot of mediums in my time. Like I want to do a documentary someday. I'm going to call it A Happy Medium, you know, and we're going to just talk to all the mediums that I've known over the years. And does it make you happy to have this ability? But every single one of them that can talk to the dead, or can talk to your animals, or can talk to your dead animals, or even people, they all have encountered aliens. So beings that were not human and did not have a human spirit and a human energy. So clearly that's a real thing, that there's this crossover. That's all I got to say about it. It's bizarre, and I don't think we're going to get to the bottom.
They are real.
Yeah.
So
both are real.
So it's safe to say we're all on the same page. So you want to put together an investigation, because we were just talking about it.
I would love that.
Would you really? So are you?
I got it, Tom. I've got it, Tom. Let's have a seance with a Ouija board at the UFO Monument Park where your abduction happened. Let's do it. Let's bring them all in on the same date. Labor Day weekend.
Waverly Hills was an old tuberculosis hospital. So they have had so many deaths on that property. They, in fact, have something that's called the body chute. And it's because so many
slide,
people,
baby.
Yeah. Did you just hear that?
Oh my gosh.
No. Something just crashed in my house.
Okay, I gotta go. See you later.
Right. Did you hear it?
No, literally, it sounded like a light bulb.
They're coming for you.
You're on your own tonight, Tommy.
We're waking the dead.
You're waking them all up.
Look at her. She's leaving.
It happens.
Yeah. Seriously, it was just really loud.
Enough of this. Yeah.
All right.
Too bad you can't stay, baby.
Have a good night, everybody.
How y'all live life? Was that naked?
No.